get to $100 million or $1 billion per Bitcoin? Yeah, of course it could, because they're going to have to print that much currency. We're at the exponential part of the debt curve, not, the reason Bitcoin's going up so much in purchasing, again, you think 15 years ago, pizza day, it was 10 cents or, whatever, 10,000 Bitcoin for a pizza or two. And you think about what it was to buy one Bitcoin then versus it's now, whatever, we'll say 100,000, 110, 120, 130,000. You think about how much the magnitude of that many dollars now, just compared to 15 years ago. And we're just now, in the debt in America was 5 to 10 trillion at the time. And now it's almost 40 trillion. And that's in 10, 15 years. Do you think about where we're going? We're at that debt curve. And that's why earlier, Bitcoin is guaranteed to rip. And Max Kaiser always says that, right? Bitcoin is it's designed to go up in purchasing power. It's mathematically designed because it's perfectly finite. And that's a part that most people don't understand. It's not, again, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And the governments of the world have to print endless amounts of currency. There's 900 trillion in global assets. There's going to be a quadrillion soon if there's not already. Well, eventually it's going to be 1.5 quadrillion. Then it's going to be 2 quadrillion. Then it's going to be 5 quadrillion. And it's probably going to be in somewhat short order. It's probably in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that just goes to show you that when you start, meeting this all out, that Bitcoin's going to melt faces, because it is the only thing that is finite that we have besides our time. But it's the marriage of time in digital scarcity and energy in Bitcoin. It's the only asset that we have that does that. So gold, land, all these different things have small inflation rates to them. We make more housing. We make more land out in Dubai. We're finding more gold. People are incentivized to do that because the price goes up. They put more supply out. They find more. And then the price comes back down a bit and kind of balances out. Bitcoin's the only thing that can't do that. And the beauty of, people, what about paper Bitcoin and price being suppressed? Well, that's great, but you're going to rip, the shorts faces off at some point. Bitcoin, that's the beauty of Bitcoin, is you have auditability every 10 minutes. You don't have that in any other asset. I can't go verify all these other things in the world at a second's notice. And every 10 minutes, TikTok next block, it doesn't matter. The Bitcoin's doing its thing and auditing the whole system. So at some point, someone sniffs out what's going on. Someone figures it out. Someone, puts a short squeeze on or whatever and blows up the people who are suppressing the price of Bitcoin or something like that. So you can do it in all these other asset classes, but you can't do it. And you can do it in the short term with Bitcoin. You cannot do it forever. And that's the thing that keeps resetting the system. So going back to us talking about black swans, education, what teaches people. Well, I think there's going to be some massive people, there'll be civil unrest to a degree in many parts of the world. I think there's also going to be some massive country blowups at some point. The JP Morgan Chases of the world, banks, massive banks that people watch blow up because they think they can play games. They think they can play funny games, and they will blow themselves up. And people will learn very quickly. Those things just ripples across the world where people are like, whoa. And then they're learning about Bitcoin. They're realizing, I can't F around all the time. So going back to this political thing of what starts training people, their mind, and reorienting their mind to truth. Well, it's going to be these events like that, not just, again, these bad things happening, it's civil unrest. Yes. Is that part of it? Yeah. But it's also going to be massive entities that we all know and love that have trust. They're going to blow themselves up and they're going to expose themselves. The water's going to, rush out. We're going to see who's swimming naked. And there we go. So the Mona Lisa thing, going back to that quick, it's art obviously is it's one of these things that I think, and I know you believe too, and many Bitcoiners, that art will have its renaissance, right? We're going to have this world where people are going back and building things with their hands, whether it's housing or, because we don't have any of that, skilled trade, skilled labor, but also art. Those things are art. The things we're building. Why do they build these, the pyramids, or why do they build, the Colosseum, or the Treasury and the Greek Pantheon or something like that? Why are these things so beautiful? Where you grew up, or in the Slavic regions, or in Austria, there's you go across Europe, they built these things thousands of years ago. It's how do we not have this stuff today? And it's because you're not incentivized to think long-term and to actually go swing a hammer. You're just not, right? You're incentivized to go into financialization and to go arbitrage a system and create more digits on a computer in order to get yourself ahead, but you're keeping the rest of society down. So again, the Mona Lisa thing is more it'll be more coveted. One Bitcoin will be more coveted than the Mona Lisa at some point. Again, could the price be more than one Bitcoin more than a Mona Lisa? Possibly. Is it $1 billion for Bitcoin? Possibly. I don't know if the system exists at that point, but people 100 years from now will. The only thing that keeps the Mona Lisa afloat, though, is that I think art will be more heralded as well, even then, than it is now to a degree. So maybe that's what keeps the Mona Lisa up there and it keeps it at par to a degree, and just people want that as well. But what are people going to want 100 years from now more? Are they going to be looking at one Bitcoin when we know that'll be very, very rare for a family or, a dynasty to have one Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin? And so people are going to be looking for that and saying, wow, can you believe that person has one Bitcoin? Is it that or the Mona Lisa? Which will people, so that to me, I think is something that people need to wrap their heads around. And again, the other part of this is the art, the real estate, the bonds, all these things, that asset premium will be, or the monetary premium will be sucked out of all these assets in the coming decades as people again say, hey, I can store this. Like you mentioned earlier, I can run my own node for couple $100 in a few minutes of setting this up. I can get self custody. I can get a Passport, foundation wall, Passport core. I got this. I got my titanium seed plate. Boom, good to go. And I've got my wealth, and I can go where anyone in the universe. Or do I want to get this Mona Lisa and try to keep my wealth in that and try to travel the world with that? You can't. Do I want to travel the world with my house? No, these things have been made as banks because people can't save their fiat currency. So now you have this world where we have this thing you can store in, protect it, go anywhere in the world, and you don't have to store your monetary premium, your savings in bonds or in real estate or in art. So that monetary premium is going to start coming out. Maybe it's 450 trillion of the 900 trillion. It starts getting sucked out of all of it. And to a large extent, I think that you probably have to account, because Bitcoin's money, you have to account for all 900 trillion. And that's why you see like a Jeff Booth say it's going to be $43 million per Bitcoin, or 20 to $25 million of Bitcoin, because it's one half of every trade, $450 trillion. It's definitely one of those. And like, it is money. It's going to do it, but it's going to take some time. And this is what people are going to wake up to and realize, as they cannot just, go take most people don't have the Mona Lisa. You have to go see it. And again, they're going to take that monetary premium from all these different asset classes, and it's going to be sucked into Bitcoin.
I think to art will something similar happen to what will happen to companies and to maybe even like real estate. And as you come from real estate, I'm curious also like how you think about that. But I think with art, the really beautiful art, the Mona Lisas of the world, the thing where there's a lot of proof of work, and then that's like actually an art of work, a piece of art, those will become probably even more valuable in the Bitcoin world. But there's a whole bunch of fake art, and I'm talking about the banana. I'm talking about all those things where I'm like, this exists because of fiat. Yes. In a similar sense, I think companies, there are great profitable companies that do amazing work, that do amazing proof of work, that provide value in products and services that people actually use and want and love. And then there are zombie companies that just exist because of a money printer, and they are completely outrageously overvalued. And so there's and those zombie companies will go to bust the same way as the fake art will go to bust. And I think that's my best way to think through what Bitcoin will actually do. And with real estate, it's interesting because a lot of people actually use real estate. Like only rich people, mostly only rich people use art as a store of value. But a lot of the middle class, a lot of also rich people, just not the poor, use real estate as a store of value. They get in this real estate, they get the 30-year mortgage, and they save all their life just to have this like one piece of real estate. I'm really curious because I have no attraction at all to buying real estate. Like I couldn't be more turned off of buying real estate than from anything else. I rather buy, if I have to buy something outside of Bitcoin, I'd rather buy great profitable companies or something that is doing something in Bitcoin, or like AI startups or like whatever. Like I'm very turned off of real estate. Maybe down the road as an investment or as a consumer good for the family of building a family, all of that things. But how do you look actually of real estate and the implication that Bitcoin has on it? And all of that.
Yeah, it's so just my own story, I guess, to a degree. I was like I said earlier, I was doing real estate for 10 years and buying rental properties, trying to raise money, get apartment complexes, stuff like that. But you run into there's time. What's really tough, and like Warren Buffett, who I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he does, but he's obviously a smart guy in some respects. And two things can be true, I guess. And so one of the things he always talked about was patience, right? The greatest investors of all time are patient. I mean, like I think of like Donald Trump reading The Art of the Deal. I think he waited like 20 years to get like Hudson Yards in New York or something like that. And like to put the deal together, like it fell apart the first time and waited like 10 or 15 years and took a couple years to put the deal together finally. And you think about the patience that takes. 20 years. I mean, people don't even have patience to like flip the channel, on YouTube and like, they can't even wait 5 seconds or, like for an ad or something like that. And you think about the difference, and that's what really does make the difference is the patience, long-term thinking, long-term planning. And I think the real estate, you realize there's a time and place for everything. And that's what's very hard for the average person because we've been so sped up. We've become incentivized to be high time preference. That's what fiat does to you. So very short-term thinking, short attention spans, that you can't see the forest from the trees. You can't really understand what's happening. So like this cycle that we're in, we talked about civil unrest and things happening. Well, there's country risk, there's city risk, local municipal risk, there's county risk here in America, there's state or provincial risk. Like where are you? What jurisdiction are you in? Is it a good spot to buy in? Do you have good tenants? Are they good people? What kind of, mayor do you have, or, the leader in your town or whatever it is? All these things are a risk to you. And the cycle we're in now, to me, it doesn't really behoove you to go buy a bunch of real estate, because who knows what kind of people you're going to have in there. I mean, God love everybody, but you don't know the mayor who's going to be in there next, or the leader. You just have no idea. So I've always kind of joked with everybody. We started getting out of all of our real estate a handful of years ago. And it's a time where you kind of take your chips off the table. And in the cycles, this is what I learned 15 years ago, even studying gold and silver. And every asset class has its cycles. I talked to Dr. Jeff Ross about this, 3 or 4 months ago. I mean, like in 20 years from now, it won't make sense to invest in Bitcoin. Saving in Bitcoin and being the money is always going to be a thing, and that'll eventually become just money. But investing in Bitcoin right now, it's an investment, it's a money, it's a current, like it's all these things Bitcoin is. But eventually, a couple decades from now, it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin and pull my chips off the table and defund the system. Things will have already happened. Things will have changed, and you kind of miss that S curve. Well, you don't kind of, you do miss that S curve. You miss that explosive move. And that's what all asset classes do. Everything has done that over time. Gold and silver, they have these swings where, stocks and real estate and gold and silver and businesses, they all have their cycles, and a lot of them mirror each other, or they're inverted, and you kind of jump in at one asset class and out of the other, and etc. And we're just in one of those times in life where it's annoying to a lot of people. And I've had a lot of people say, well, like, well, I just, activity bias, right? Like they feel like they have to do something, whether they're really wealthy even, or they're not. Everyone has this activity bias of like, again, seeing Gary Vaynerchuk online or something like that. Again, Gary V is amazing or something, but like all these like hustle culture, grind culture, that's what inflation does to you. Like you have to like, kill yourself and get on the rat wheel in order to just get ahead in life. And I get it. I understand it. Again, we make content, you and I played high level hockey growing up, and it was always like a grind. You're always like getting after it every day. You get up and like you got your routine and do your thing to get better. But why are you doing those things? Right. And so where I'm going with all this is that there's a time and a place to get into real estate and do some of these things. I just don't believe that's the time right now. Like, are there ways to do it? And if you have a massive operation and all kinds of funding, then hey, by all means, and the mayor and the state governor that you're in, the province, like sure, like everyone's. But for the average person, the average guy working at McDonald's, or the guy working at who knows, even a guy working at Credit Suisse, or RBS or something like that, or Fly Emirates. It's like the average guy working at these places, all you need to do is go to work, provide value for society, and save in Bitcoin. And then you get to defund the system, the corrupt system that you're in. And then eventually over time here, it's the best thing you can do. Then once the purchasing power has all transferred, because there's a transfer of wealth coming, the transfer of wealth is going to be massive. And it's already started, and it's going to be massive over the next decade or two. The people that could foresee what was coming, this transfer of wealth will come to the people that had foresight, generally the Bitcoiners, probably some hard money people too. Gold and silver will probably do well also. But these people, and then assets below that, stocks, people have that, but they'll just kind of keep along with the money printing or currency printing. And then the people that have that foresight will reshape the world eventually. And then 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whatever it is, you then, will look at each other and say, hey, Bitcoin as an investment, maybe it's only 15% a year or something like that. Well, what if we go buy an apartment complex, or if we go buy a business, maybe it's making 25% a year or 35% a year or something like that. Then it makes sense to get back into another asset class, use your money to go buy another legacy asset at that point. So to me, I think that's kind of the cycle we're in, where it makes sense because we need to defund the system. Bitcoin is the best investment. It's the really the only money. You can make an argument that's the only money humans have ever really truly had and discovered. So we have this perfect time and place. Just like if anyone's read the book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, it's an unbelievable book. I reference it, I don't know, probably once a month over the last like 5 years. Such a good book. And he talks about, like, you can't go invent another internet right now. I mean, you could, but you're not going to compete against the internet, right? The Lindy effect, the network effects. Like, you're not going to do that. You can't go, hey, I'm going to go discover oil. Like, that's already gone. Like, if you weren't born in like whatever it was, 30 to 1841, you can't do it. Like, so he goes through and talks about all these different eras of society where if you were born in this 9-year window or 12-year window, you had the ability to be this guy, like the Rockefellers or Vanderbilts or Steve Jobs, something like that. But after that, sorry, like, that's how life works. Life isn't fair. So what is that chance? What is your Steve Jobs moment now? What is your Vanderbilt, Rockefeller moment now? How can you become that next class of people? Well, the people that were born, 1940 to now to 2000 or whatever it is, like, you have that ability to just save in Bitcoin, the hardest money, the only money humans have ever had. And then you can become very wealthy over time with even a small fraction. You'll become very wealthy in the future decades. And then you get to reshape society. You get to go buy the assets, and that transfer of wealth from the legacy world that didn't know what was going on. It's kind of like life cycles, right? Like, the strong will survive, the people who get it, and then the weak, their weak mind, they were felt entitled. Their mind got soft and atrophied because they didn't think they needed to do anything else. You get a lot of academics, and you get a lot of credentialists now, right? Like, their minds are very soft because they're not staying up on things. It's like the guy the other day that was like still doubling down, like, well, I got Bitcoin wrong 7 years ago, and I'm still not, I'm still sticking to it or something like that. It was like, okay, like, that's a perfect example of the more formal education you have, the less humility you have. You think you're God's gift to earth. You think you're so smart intellectually that your ego is so big that your humility can't rise to the occasion in order to understand, hey, facts have changed. Time changes, things move. And now society's going a different direction. There's a better answer. And that's what I go back to earlier, like, humility is the name of the game. And if you can't understand, there's a book from 1970 called Future Shock, Alvin Toffler. And he talks about those that will shape the new world or be wealthy, in essence, paraphrasing, will be the ones who can learn, unlearn, and then relearn. And it's just about having this, I should say, like, your mind is soft. And so these people are soft, but their minds are hard. They're hard in. They aren't growing anymore. So I should rephrase how I was saying that. But that's the world we're in. Real estate, to me, it's an amazing thing if it's a certain person and a certain resources, experience, stuff like that. For the average person, it makes no sense right now. Do it 10, 20, 30 years from now, get in investments, trade your Bitcoin or whatever it is for these productive assets when it makes sense. But right now, the average person, all they have to do, because again, the last thing I'll say is I did this and it took lots of time. It took many 5, 6, 7 people a month. We'd spend all kinds of fiat every month trying to look for properties, trying to do things and fighting other people, fighting BlackRock. Literally, I mean, we'd go into deals, you'd be fighting BlackRock, you'd be fighting Blackstone, like other people trying to buy up homes all across the country. And because, I mean, at the end of the day, could there be something nefarious? Maybe. But they're also looking for return as well. They're like, we have all this currency and like, we don't know what to do with it. So they're out, in the free market, buying bonds away from you and I, driving up the price of bonds. They're in the real estate market, buying up housing away from the average guy and gal trying to get their first home. So it's just this insidious problem that the asset premium, like I said earlier, needs to come out of these assets, go flow into Bitcoin. And there will be a time and place for real estate to buy, your family home or whatever it is, buy some rental properties, buy some apartment complexes. But the time for me is Bitcoin now. And that's the time of the cycle we're in. It's very obvious to those who've been paying attention, but it's very hard though, because it feels like you are doing nothing, right? It feels like I'm just sitting here. Like, the wealth is being transferred to me and the price, nominal price keeps going up. But it doesn't feel like I'm doing much. But just know you are doing God's work. You are doing the greatest thing you could be doing, which is defunding these corrupt people all across the world who are in these ivory towers thinking they just get to run the world and to print it away from you, steal your time and energy, and put you on the rat wheel.
I love that. Man, that's amazing. And I want to show this to people because I think it's such an amazing example that economists that are wrong for over 7 years now, writing things like, like Bitcoin is more likely to go to $100 than to 100K. Professor at Harvard, someone that should be intellectually open to actually study this thing. And I want to show this just to people, just people understand like how massively he he's into that. He wrote that like just I don't know, like just a couple of days or weeks ago, like in August, and he wrote that article here in CNBC. It was published 2018, and he wrote at that time was Bitcoin around like $8,000. I looked up, and so he wrote when Bitcoin was at $8,000, Bitcoin is more likely to go to $100. Like that would be a massive, massive fall. It would basically be Bitcoin is worthless at that time if Bitcoin goes back to $100. Then it reaches 100K. Now, Bitcoin reached 100K, and his employer bought Bitcoin, over $100 million worth of Bitcoin.
Insane.
Not only his employer bought Bitcoin, so Harvard obviously slowly gets it. He's wrong for 7 years, and just as fun, his thing, since he said Bitcoin is more likely to go to $100 than $100,000, Bitcoin went up 1,217%, which is over $100,000. Yes, he bought it around $8,000, or he talked about it about $8,000, and this just shows you that they are aware of Bitcoins in 7 years. They are obviously smart enough to get Bitcoin. Like he is not a stupid person. Like he is smart enough to get it. He's too ignorant to get it. And this is where I say to people, pick your battles when it comes to orange pilling. Orange pill people that actually want to get educated, that actually are intellectually honest and open, and not someone that anyways just wants to prove a point. And even if Bitcoin is at $1 million, he's one guy that if Bitcoin is at $1 million and the Federal Reserve bought it, he will be like, oh, I did not anticipate that the Federal Reserve will buy it and Bitcoin is still worthless, but the Federal Reserve buys it now. Like, oh yeah, you will just find this little straw that you like, oh yeah, I'm still right because I'm the Harvard professor that knows everything.
Insane. It's absolutely insane. Again, it's an IQ or EQ, the EQ test, right? It's a humility and ego test. That's all Bitcoin is. It's not, there's some of the smartest people in the world that grok Bitcoin. There's some of the least smartest of the world that grok Bitcoin. Doesn't matter. That's not, and that's the beauty of it. I don't think humans are put here on Earth, in my belief, that you have to be, excuse me, some 180 IQ person in order to get ahead in life. Like if anyone believes that, then I mean, like, come on, like what are we doing here? I don't think that that's, what it is. And again, like you have to, figure things out in order to get ahead and, build shelter, Maslow's hierarchy needs or something to that effect. Right. But humans cooperate together. We want to see each other succeed. Truthfully, we're made good. All of us are made good. And do some people kind of stray off the path? Do we all stray off the path to a degree? Yeah, we do. And some more than others. But inherently we're all good. Otherwise you'd have 10 million Genghis Khans every single day, all day long. So that right there is confirmation that we are all created good, because otherwise you would see that. You would see just mass chaos all the time, everywhere, every single day, and you don't. So anyway, that's I love you share that, because that's it's a great example of humility that is needed to understand Bitcoin, or otherwise you never will, and you will not be part of this wealth transfer going forward, guaranteed.
Yeah, and I just hope for him and that he gives it a second look, because I think I feel with people that are into this thing of like, oh, I want to prove my point, and they actually don't want to learn. And this is something that I also have a lot of empathy for people, because they have been trained and they are in the system so deeply. It's like, as you mentioned before, the fish doesn't recognize that he's wet. It's kind of this thing, and this is this honesty, because I do think that if I would do an IQ test, I would probably underperform most of my guests, and I would probably underperform even like most of my audience. I'm really not that smart, but one thing that I do a lot is just being extremely curious, and that's why I like being on the other side of the mic, just like asking questions. And when I'm on another podcast, podcast, I got the feedback, oh, like you got so smart. And I'm like, no, like I just reiterate what my guest is saying. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I got the
just
smartest people in
speaking
the world to tell me their thoughts. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like
It's amazing.
I'm not smart. I'm just repeating what Jeff Booth, Michael Saylor, and all those great people have told me, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh yeah, that sounds really smart. And like let's do that. But we're coming slowly to the end of the podcast, and it was great learning also from you. You're extremely smart, man. You've
Oh,
done some
thanks,
great
Robin.
work in there, and so that's why
Pleasure.
I'm really looking forward to the question that I ask each and every one of my new guests on the podcast. And the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Oh, well, I can juggle. That's always the talent that there's some secret talent, which I just found out my wife can also juggle. After 10 years of marriage, 15 years of knowing her, I didn't know she could juggle, and I just found that out in the last year. So,
How did you find that out so
I,
late?
honestly, like she is, God bless her heart. She was just always like, I don't know, like you'd always like say it first, and then like I never want to like burst your bubble, and like I was like, are you kidding me? And we're both pretty competitive. So she played college sports as well. So I'm like, are you kidding me? I still gets me, but it came up. I don't know how it came up. Like someone, I don't know. I don't know how it came up, but like I caught her almost like she was telling it to somebody else or something like that. And I was like, wait, what did you say? Oh my gosh. It was just wild. But I'm trying to think. Yeah. I mean, obviously I love your pod, Robin. I have my pod as well. I'm writing, some small books right now. Stuff like that I love writing. I think that's one of my big things. I really like writing. I like making content a lot. But writing, I really love just because it's, something that kind of, it can be just in print forever. And I can kind of do it whenever too, even obviously doing what we do, you're on some type of schedules, things of that nature. And it's really tough with just like I was telling you, my family with 4 kids and stuff like that at times. So, doing some writing about, really the founding of America and just some of like just global history and Bitcoin, how it relates to Bitcoin, stuff like that. So I'm really excited about some of that because we have a lot of Bitcoin content out there that's like, hey, this is what Bitcoin is, or, hey, this is why it's so great or whatever. But I do think we need more content that's lighting the fires in that couple percent of people and understanding that we're not going to get 90 or 100% of people or 90 or 80% of people to do this. It's trying to light the fires of a handful of percent that are going to wake up and that are already there. Like they have, just like selling, right? Like if you're selling, you're not going to go try to convince, the Eskimo that he needs an igloo, like you're going to go, find something that he does need or a way, someone that, is in need of your services or something like that, right?
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.